specifically to recognise the success of Joris Moore, who is the winner of the Alliance Arts and Business Northern Ireland Professional Development Award 2012. So catchy, I think, to get as the winner. The Alliance Arts and Business Northern Ireland Professional Development Award is given to someone who has brought outstanding benefit to a local arts organisation from their capacity within a governance role. And so I'd like to hand over to Joris to tell us a bit about his experience.
Thanks very much. I feel so profoundly honoured. I'm actually going to approach you a wee bit, just to get everybody's fair distance. It really is an honour in so many ways, not just to win the Arts and Business Award, because I know the calibre of arts and business and the work that they have undertaken for the last number of years to draw business and the arts so much closer. It's critical that the arts become redefined among certain audiences, because the arts were always thrown into a box which had on the lid words like cosmetic, pastime, for children, and for the mildly insane who've nothing better to do. And the arts really had to come out of that box and be redefined, and I think that's what Arts and Business has taken huge steps towards bringing the rest of the business community to understand. The point that I'm making really is that all the lobbying that we undertook since the late 90s and early 2000s to build this were based on business plans, and were based on the fact that the arts had to be invested in just as much as any industrial activity, any commercial or trading activity, because the arts were going to be more than just a cosmetic, more than just a badge of honour, and more than just raising the profile for somebody's capital city or society. It was actually an integral part of our very existence, and something that would act as a magnet, something that would act as an attraction for inward investment as well as tourism. What I need to talk to you about today, Arts and Business have asked me to do, is the experience of being a board member. And the first thing to recall is that it is a collective effort. There are a number of us on the board. And I suppose every organisation should be aiming to elicit from its board everything that it possibly can, for as little as it possibly can. Which is why so many boards you will find very highly qualified people. For instance, on our board we had legal experts who were able to give legal advice for free, accountants who were able to do the same, and so on. But it's not enough to ask certain people to join because of their specific set of skills. Even though that's how I first got involved in the Old Museum Arts Centre, as it was then back in 1999. If you go back to those early days, really, and you think of what the arts were like then, I mean, OMAC was distinctly not corporate. You can see the MAC and the Lyric, the Ulster Hall and other venues becoming much more corporately acceptable, because they're almost talking the same language as industrial development. And nor did OMAC have the captivating or humanistic compunction of, say, a health or children's charity. As board members, you need to bear that in mind. Like, is there going to be something there that you find entirely compelling and motivating? And in many ways, it was a tough sell. It didn't have the presence of the Lyric. It was in a part of town, actually, where car theft statistics outstripped car sales. I mean, it was just the worst part of the city. That was a constant problem that we had, because people were coming in their car keys and my windows just being busted. And it was happening all the time. So, it was a bit of a kip around there. And yet, we were able to grow ticket sales every year. We were able to grow them by 20% over a period of 20 years, which was largely why we had such a strong argument for being able to build this. But it had something else. The Old Museum had a magical spirit, and it did create a shared space, and that was critical in that part of North Belfast. It did bring people from all around, and not just from around Belfast and Greater Belfast, people from Enniskillen, Armagh, Derry, and so on, were coming up because of the quality of the content, the quality of the art shows, and the drama and the music that was being put on. And I guess really that the first thing that I found was how dedicated and professional the executive here, the staff at the Old Museum Arts Centre were, in terms of identifying the shows that would sell, and shows that were quality, not just commercially. We're not the Grand Opera House. The Grand Opera House does very well what it does. We're in a more sort of limited kind of space where we're trying to push art that isn't necessarily the most palatable, but yet it's very, very much part of an incubation process as art continues to evolve, whether it's musical, dramatic, or visual. And so you had people like Gillian, who I'm hoping you're going to meet a little bit later, who would travel all over the place, Anne McReynolds and various other ones who could bring back that intelligence, who is out there that we need to see. And not just bringing in shows, but also seeing what was available here and incubating it and making sure that there was a very, very large percentage of local talent being exploited and developed. So for me, as a board member, the challenge was, well, like my day job is in PR, and the Old Museum Arts Centre needs PR, and so that's how I was lucky enough to get involved. I was invited onto the board. But the thing was that for the first 3 years, there was a sort of vacuum. We didn't really know what our roles were as board members, and this is a very important step, or a very important feature, because arts and business is very good at this, at making you understand what it is as a board member that you can do. And that's critical, because at a time when we weren't sure about funding, weren't sure about this, there was even just talk that it might never happen, we felt, some of us, that we were just there really as part of the governance scheme. But it very, very quickly changed as soon as the focus was on a project. Once the project, the size of this one, was underway, the definition of each one's role became very, very clear. And when I spoke about the collective effort at the start of this, the collective effort actually does rely on those collective set, or the specific sets of skills that we all bring. And therefore we were ruthless. As the board stood, for instance, in the mid-2000s, we realized it had to change and it had to develop. So there was a cull, and it was all very polite and very, very painless, I suppose, for many of us. But we had to get new talent in. We had to get architectural talent in during the procurement process. There was a Royal Institution of British Architects International competition. We needed real advice from 2 architects who joined the board to do that. Similarly, on the legal front, we were able to appoint a couple of legal people. But it was a recruitment process, and it was competitive. And that meant that your role as a board member actually became even more valuable, because you felt that you'd earned your place on it. The thing now is that the project is established. The Capital Works project is here. And if you are thinking, for instance, as what potential you might bring to a board, you have to think in terms of, well, there aren't any more capital projects underway. There won't be for some time. So if you have an interest in the arts, where do you take it? Well, there are 3 resident companies here, for instance. There are a number of companies around Belfast who do very, very good work. There are so many others that Arts and Business would be able to tell you about. And it's critical that the business influence on those arts organisations is strongly felt. There's a very interesting thing that I noticed, that on the board, throughout that decade and even up until now, the artistic talent on the board was minimal. There was only a small representation of artistic professional on that board. And that's because the MAC does what it does expertly. It doesn't need interference at that level. The product being created here is something that is uniquely in the hands of the staff here. And therefore it wouldn't be right, it would be a fundamental wrong for the board to interfere with that, which is why we don't have committees to do with artistic content, because that would be a step too far. But where the board's really needed is, or where organisations need them, is for those business reasons, on human resources, on legals, on PR and marketing especially. There are any amount of reasons why professionals who are outside the artistic framework need to be engaged in arts, in the arts, and there are plenty of opportunities, I'm sure, there for the right people. I hope I've said the right things in the right amount of time. We will be here. I think that we'll have a tour. I'm still getting used to the building, so I've been asked to take a tour. I couldn't. I don't get lost. If there are any questions, I think there's a minute or two before we move on to the next thing. But thank you very much for listening in the meantime.
Thank you very much. Very honest and very practical insight into what is support, and also for the wonderful plugs for our programs throughout, as you say, which I will continue. So if there are any of you here today who would have an interest in perhaps becoming a non-executive director with a local non-profit distributing arts organisation, please do speak to myself or any of the team here today or after the event. And we'll discuss. So, next is from the back. If I could introduce Gillian from the MAC to say a few words.
Yeah. I'm sure her apologies have already been passed on, but just in case they haven't, or can I reiterate, our CEO, who's supposed to be here today, is unfortunately ill, so you've got me instead. I'm Gillian Mitchell, I'm the Director of Programmes for MAC, and I'm just going to say a few brief words about the MAC and our relationship with businesses. Normally at this point, Anne and I have a spiel where we tell people what's in the MAC, how many theatre spaces and so on. But obviously you guys are all going to get a tour to see for yourselves shortly after that, so let's get that part and let the building speak for itself. Just a little bit of a reminder about the history of the MAC though. Some of you may know, some of you may not know that it was built at a cost of £18 million. And that came from a range of funding. We set our own target of £1 million, which we exceeded. And then the rest of the funding for the MAC came from DSD, Lightside, DCAL, and the Arts Council of Northern Ireland's lottery programme. So in excess of £17 million into a public building. The reason why that's important is because it allowed us to actually create the building that you're standing in today, but also because there was a very kind of long-term vision for the MAC in terms of what it would deliver for Northern Ireland, not just for Belfast, but across the region. The funders were very, very focused on, as well as the MAC being important artistically, there's been a kind of long-held recognition for what the venues like the MAC can do in terms of being an economic driver, and of course being a cornerstone of the cultural regeneration of the cathedral quarter. As you know, we're city centre in a really bustling location, so it's very kind of gratifying, I think 5 days into opening, Martin, to see that all that kind of vision and all the theory behind the latent audience demand is starting to become a reality. In just 3 days, we reached 10% of our income targets for our attendance targets for the year. So we knew there was going to be a lot of interest in the MAC. We were expecting a lot of footfall. We'd done all the work, we'd done all the research. We spent a long time telling people about what we were planning on doing. So it's very, very gratifying and overwhelming to see so many people respond to that. And be talking about thousands. I think we had 6,000 through in the last 5 days. So we're expecting a couple of hundred each day. One of the questions that we used to get asked quite a lot, which I think, and hopefully we won't get, is why we're different from other venues. There's a number of ways in which we're different. The building is very different in terms of the the design, the fact that it's a city centre location. We're open 7 days a week. The only days of the year we're closed are Christmas Day and Easter Sunday. And there's a whole host of reasons behind that, again, mainly because we see ourselves very much as part of the cultural economy in Belfast and in Northern Ireland, and we're responding to our customer demand, which is to have places to go, to spend time and spend money 7 days a week. So we're open from early in the morning until late at night. We're also a very different artistic proposition. Yes, there are other fantastic theatre spaces in Belfast, but we have a really broad ranging programme. We have theatre, and we have lots of really good quality theatre, but we also have music, we have comedy, we have dance, we have every performing arts type of event that you could think of, and of course we have 3 magnificent gallery spaces. So we're a totally unique proposition. Nothing else exists like us in Northern Ireland, or indeed on the island of Ireland, and certainly not on the scale of the MAC. So that kind of well-worn line of we have something on offer for everyone, we think is really, really true in our case. It would be difficult for someone to find something that didn't engage them. All under one roof. In terms of our relationship with businesses, we're starting to see quite a lot of that come into fruition as well, which is really gratifying. We've been spending a lot of time talking to our corporate partners, potential corporate partners, and like them, we're looking for true partnerships. And that has helped us develop relationships so far with the Belfast Telegraph, with Ulster Bank, and with Allen and O'Free and others. One of the things that we think they're responding to is the fact that we've really spent a long time developing our brand, and we believe the MAC brand is really strong, and brand alignment is something that our corporate partners are responding to clearly and loudly, and that alignment has been critical to our success so far. There's a recognition from our corporate partners that we've worked really hard on researching our audiences. Way back whenever the MAC was first conceived, there was a lot of research done into the latent audience demand for a venue like this, and since then we've turned into that and gone into the detail of that in terms of segmentation, all of which has fed into the development of the overall brand. We've built up a really detailed picture of our potential customer base, not just in Belfast, but across Northern Ireland. And we've developed our own market segments from cool eclectics, who are the kind of people who would turn up to see something in a warehouse, to treat seekers who basically want the whole products around. And in terms of our relationships with our corporate partners, we're already starting to match some of our products with our corporate partners' market segments. Sponsorship is only one way in which we engage with businesses. There's a whole host of things we do, and that we have an offer to business clients, from the ability to host conferences, from more formal and large-scale events to small meetings, and so on. And I'm going to hand over now to Martin Faulkner, who's our business development manager, who's going to tell you a little bit more about some of the things that we've developed. Thank you.
After all that, because I think Joris and Julian sort of covered most aspects of the MAC. But then, whenever I think about that, and I realise how many aspects there are to the MAC, I think we'd be here to about 5 or 6 o'clock if we were to try and attempt to cover 90% of them. Joris mentioned about the importance of business at board level to arts organisations. My role as business development manager here focuses, I guess, on perhaps more the element of the importance of businesses to enable arts organisations to deliver the programme of activities and events that we're here to do. And my job here is to maximise the opportunities we have to engage with businesses. So when I come and talk to you, and believe me, I will come and talk to you all,
I don't come to the table cap in hand, or I don't come with an empty portfolio. We have so many terrific spaces, and I hope most of you will stay and come with us and see some of those spaces. We can't, our bookings are already at a level that some of the spaces we can't get into because they're already used by various organisations. But the design of the building is so wonderful that all our spaces are totally flexible, so we can accommodate everything from gala dinners right through to seminars, to meetings, to presentations for various numbers of people. Our two theatre spaces, for instance, feature retractable seating, so whilst you have the most comfortable theatres imaginable, that seating can be fully retracted, and it could be showing hydraulic drills or lifts or something like that the next day. So they really are very versatile. The location of this building is cornerstone to its undoubted success. I mean, it's just a terrific location. The accessibility, the availability, the ease of getting here. Gillian alluded to the unexpectedly high numbers. There could be some teething problem. And that was especially designed to highlight the originality with which the bank can provide any event. Gillian mentioned that we had, I think, just in 3 days, we had something over 5,000 visitors, which was incredible, and it was very gratifying that we dealt with them all, I think, quite well, and certainly the feedback has been terrific. Our projected numbers of visitors were something in the region of 200,000 per year. And over the weekend, in terms of, I suppose, me dealing with potential commercial partners, they talk about the other sort of ways that they can promote their product. So, for instance, a bus driving past and signage inside the bus. Our clients engage with us. I spoke to people on Saturday that had dropped in for half an hour, and 4 hours later they were still here. So the length of engagement that we can offer, the range of engagement, the professionalism, I hope that all our departments will put forward. One of the great aspects, and I'm not from an arts and cultural background at all, but one of the things that I have really enjoyed learning about is our learning and participation department and the work that they do, going out working through communities, through schools, all in an attempt to engage people. There are young people that will be the performers, the actors, the funders, the audiences of tomorrow, to embrace them, to get them in, to get them involved in the arts, to talk to cross-community groups, to bring them in, to make art inclusive for all. It is not an elitist pursuit, and everything about the MAC will be striving to ensure that everybody's very much aware of that. So in terms of customer connections, getting corporate messages through to customers in a receptive, positive environment, the MAC can provide those opportunities, and I would be delighted to talk to any of you and explore those areas further. I hope most of you will be able to stay. Just for logistical purposes, we feel it better perhaps if we can take groups of maybe 10 to 15, and a couple of my colleagues, Stuart Campbell, who is our programming officer, and Fran Kavanagh, who is our operations manager, and myself will take allocated groups. So you can choose out of popularity, or you can just really feed off in groups of 10 or 12, and we'll bring you to as many areas as we can. But truly, I would be delighted to talk to any of you if you feel that the MAC can offer opportunities to connect with your customers. Thank you for your attention.
That's the speeches bit. So it's just the thanks again to the Department of Culture, Arts and Leisure for their support of the event, to the Arts Council for Northern Ireland for their ongoing support for our government's programmes, to yours and Gillian for your words today, and thank you very much to yourselves for listening so attentively. On with the tours.